Part 48. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 471. Chapter 471 You can do anything you ask me to do. Zhang Lingzi looked away. Looking to the side for a moment, he saw Yin Chong standing at the door of the tent not far away. The two pairs of eyes looked at each other for a moment, then moved away together. Zhang Lingzi turned around and went back to the RV, and Yin Chong picked up the phone. "Where are you?" "The car is parked at the foot of the leeward on the north side of the camp. I will go there later." "I didn't realize they had just left." As soon as Zhang Lingzi entered the dining hall, she saw Wei Minmin, who was already sitting on a stool and eating. "Hi, Sister 11, come and sit here. I've just been here." Zhang Lingzi finished her meal and walked to sit across from her. She looked at her a few times before moving in a hurry. "What's wrong, Sister 11? "Fine. It seems like nothing happened. I'm afraid this girl will never know what happened last night. The magician's methods can really be described as mysterious." "Hey, Sister 11, where is Mr. Shen? Why haven't you seen anyone else? Are you still resting?" "They took the time to come over yesterday to visit us. They had other business to attend to and left early this morning." "You're in such a hurry, it seems like it's work, isn't it? Archaeology that comes here." Zhang Lingzi glanced at Yin Chong, who was sitting calmly at the table next to him with the food. "That's right. How come the ancient capital ruins are not considered archaeology?" Asterisk. 9 in the morning. The crew started work on time. Zhang Lingzi went to find Wei Xiao first after doing her makeup. Since Yun Chen was bringing Yun Yi over, she thought it would be best to say hello to the boss of the crew in advance. Wei Xiao raised his eyebrows when he heard this. "Her son, Yun Chen, wants to come over and be your assistant? Is this to repay a favor?" "It's also about exercising, half and half. It cannot be directly said that he came here to avoid trouble. Although the biggest culprit is also on the crew. Okay, Yun Chen has to give him some face. As long as that boy Yun Yi doesn't have the temper of a young master after he regains his memory. That can't be done." It's approaching 10 o'clock, and Zhang Lingzi has just finished shooting the first scene of the day with Yin Chong. Seeing that the two of them were very tired from the death struggle they just had, and because they had to reset the scene, Wei Xiao directly waved his hand. "Teacher Zhang and Teacher Chong can go back and rest for 40 years in about a minute. I'll eat something to replenish my strength, and then come back and continue filming the next scene. Scenery and props, set up the big tent for me within 40 minutes. Zhang Lingzi took a few sips of the water glass handed over by Lu Zhengzheng, ate another piece of chocolate, and finally stuffed a piece of candy into her mouth. She turned around and saw Yin Chong's back, who had walked some distance away. She moved on her toes. Lian and Li Yan had probably been brought nearby by Luan Hua. "Are they going to see them?" "Zhengzheng, give me your phone." Taking the phone, Zhang Lingzi sent a message to Yun Chen. "How long until you arrive?" After a few minutes, she received a reply. "It will be there around noon. This is delivered directly to your door. When you arrive, come directly to see me." Although the possibility of being intercepted by Yin Chong is very slim, the man's methods are really, we must be careful. Asterisk. Boss, the Chong Yin assistant who drove out in the middle of the night last night came back, but did not enter the camp, stopped under the backwind outside a mile. Should you send 2 people to see it? To say the star, it's really hard work for an assistant. You have to go out when you receive orders in the middle of the night. Although the area is relatively safe, you may not be lucky enough to encounter hungry wild wolves. It's not easy to make money. Su Zhao looked in the direction pointed by his subordinates. Just as he was about to send someone over to take a look, he saw a man walking out of the entrance and exit of the camp. It was not Chong Yin. "No need, I must have stopped there on purpose." As he spoke, he turned his head and glanced in the direction of the still lively studio. Nowadays in this crew, anyone with a discerning eye can see that the relationship between Zhang Lingzi and Chang Yin is somewhat uneasy. Although these two people are not approachable in temperament, Zhang Lingzi was able to be polite to the rest of the crew, except for Chang Yin, who was not polite and even choked him several times. Chang Yin would not look at irrelevant people unless necessary, and sometimes he would take the initiative to talk to Zhang Lingzi, but there was always a sense of yin and yang in him. Many people think it's because the two of them play life and death opposites in the play. They usually get too involved in the play and can't get out of the play. But he still felt something was not right. To be more specific, it can be traced back to Kong Guyan's assistant named Luan Feng, who was injured outside Zhang Lingzi's RV and then left the crew. Do these two people have any personal grudges? He has to keep a closer eye. At least during this mission, nothing happens and his sign is smashed. As soon as Yin Chang reached the leeward slope, the car door opened. Although Luan Hua didn't sleep all night and drove for more than 10 hours, she was still in good spirits. "Sir, they are in the back seat. This is Kongju's mobile phone." Yin Chang nodded and took the phone, raised his feet and sat on the passenger seat. After closing the door, he looked at the two people in the back seat through the rear-view mirror. When his eyes fell on Lian, he paused and glanced at her belly. Then calmly withdraw. "How did you get this mobile phone? Where and who had it? What else was there besides the mobile phone at that time? Does anyone know about this? Tell me clearly." "Well, the one on the left starts first." Li Yan, who was called out, didn't move. He only opened his mouth mechanically, from Lian's backpack, in the hotel. A minute later, Li Yan's expression suddenly changed, as if he was waking up from a dream. But when he clearly saw his surroundings, the strange man sitting in front of him, and the obviously abnormal Lian beside him, before he could scream in fear, the left car door was opened from the outside. He didn't even have time to react, and was hit by a. He pulled him down, laid him down on the ground, and took a mouthful of sand. A voice that instantly chilled him to the bone floated down, "Get rid of the useless things." "No," Li Yan struggled desperately and spat out the sand in his mouth. "Don't kill me, I will do whatever you want." It was Lian's turn, and Yin Chang finally got some useful information. It's just that although this information was useful, it didn't make him feel better. Even couldn't help but curse, "Nine-weight idiots." Luan Hua heard it outside and lowered his head as if he didn't hear it. Soon, Lian also woke up. He happened to meet Yin Chang's face as he turned to look over. The scream that reached his throat was quickly swallowed back, and the fear in his eyes turned into surprise. Lian, right? You ruined my life this time. How do you think I should punish you? I can do anything for you." Yin Chang suddenly raised his lips and smiled, looking coldly at the obsession on Lian's face. "Anything is fine? What if I want the child in your belly?" Yes. "Very good, I like girls like you who are sensible and aware of current affairs." End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 472. It's time to go back. Yin Chang glanced at his watch, call Luan Feng and ask him to come over. By the way, inform the door that Kongju is dead, the exploration mission has been interrupted, and the information has been intercepted unconsciously. Someone needs to be sent as soon as possible. Restart the mission. Luan Hua did not hide the happiness on her face. "Yes, sir. With the lessons learned last time, Xiaofeng will definitely be able to do what you asked." The conversation between the two people did not hide anything from the two people sitting in the back seat like quails. Lian and Luan Feng were sensitive to the fact that they had been involved in something terrible. But the problem is that they have no room for resistance. Even Lian felt a bit of weird excitement in her heart. The fact that these two people were able to take her and Li Yan out of Yun Chan's place without anyone noticing meant that they were more capable than Yun Chan. Not to mention that the face of the person sitting in front was the most perfect she had ever seen in her life. She felt her heart beating fast just by looking at it. She had never dared to think about doing something for such a person before. Seeing that someone was opening the car door to go out, she quickly summoned up the courage to say, "Sir." Yin Chong looked back at her. Lian's cheeks turned red immediately. "Yes, is there anything I can do now?" Yin Chong smiled at her and said in a low and soft voice, "Take good care of yourself first." "Ah, okay, okay." Luan Hua couldn't help but sneer in his heart when he saw her like this. The USB flash drive that Kongju told him was lost, and it fell into the hands of Zhang Lingzi, who was closely related to Wuju, causing Wuju to act one step faster than them this time. "Your Excellency can still keep these two people. You don't need to think about it to know that they are used as navigation and cannon fodder. There is really no self-awareness at all. 9 times out of 10, you will be fooled to death by yourself." Asterisk. Back on the set, the tent has been set up. Wei Xiao was sitting in the corner of the tent and was talking to Zhang Lingzi. He looked up and saw Chang Yin coming in and waved. Zhang Lingzi and others also looked at him after they came over. Getting a smile that is not a smile but a smile. She also looked back, looking much prettier than her smiling face. After talking about the play, the two went to the side to play. Yin Chong put aside the script in his hand and did not say the lines he would use later. "Miss Zhang, good luck." Zhang Lingzi naturally knew what he meant. The USB flash drive was obviously going to be handed over to the disciples of Changkang clan. If nothing happened in the process, it would definitely not reach her. But who would have thought that something unexpected would happen midway? It was not just good luck. She nodded calmly, "I think so too. But Miss Zhang, don't be too happy. That person's strength is also one of the best, but he still failed to complete his mission. Now that your people have passed, it can be regarded as continuing to pave the way for the people behind. I admire Mr. Shen very much, but unfortunately, we will never see him again." As soon as the word farewell came out, Zhang Lingzi's eyes suddenly turned cold. At this point, everyone's trump card has been revealed, and there is no need to try and evade like before. This can be heard from Yin Chong's words. Compared to before, this threat is straightforward enough. Her reply was concise and to the point. Eternal life is just a dream, but some people just don't want to wake up. When it comes to deceiving themselves and others, no one can do it. This is a direct breach. Yin Chong's smile froze. The next thing to be filmed is a literary drama, in which Dayan negotiates with the northern barbarians. Although it is a literary opera, it has to show the feeling of being able to pick up a knife and stab the person opposite if you disagree. Zhang Lingzi and Yin Chong performed extremely long, and even Wei Xiao couldn't help but wipe his sweat after filming a scene. Nervous? Okay, very good, very exciting. There is no need for additional shots for this scene, you two can just wrap it up, take a rest and get ready for lunch later. Zhang Lingzi walked out of the big tent where the filming was taking place. As soon as she took a breath of fresh air, she saw Su Zhao walking towards the side with Yun Chan and Yun Yi. Raised his hand to wave. Ling 11. Yun Chan couldn't help but take 2 quick steps. Since she got up in the middle of the night and watched the surveillance video, she has never let go. Even during the day it didn't give her much sense of security. Although the man acted in the middle of the night, with his miraculous methods, he was not unable to take the man away from her even during the day. It wasn't until I saw Zhang Lingzi that my heart dropped. I feel relieved when I see you. Zhang Lingzi couldn't help but glance at Yin Chong, who was coming out of the tent behind her. It's a little early to be relieved. I'll trouble you to keep an eye on this brat, Yun Chan said, pulling him forward. Since I'm here to be your assistant, don't be polite. Changning and Zheng are both girls, what's wrong with that? Leave all the hard work to him. Yunyi scratched his head and felt a little embarrassed, then from now on, like Changning, I will also call you Sister Zixi. This is automatically brought into the assistant role. Ken. Hey, who is this? After settling a matter on his mind, Yun Chan noticed Yin Chong standing quietly aside, the male protagonist in your drama? He has an outstanding appearance and temperament. No prize. Yin Chong smiled lightly, but I am not playing the leading role. The entertainment industry and the fashion industry have a lot of overlap. If someone with this appearance and temperament becomes famous, it is impossible for him not to be unimpressed. Then there is only one possibility, this is a new person. It doesn't matter if you're not the protagonist when your TV series starts airing, you will definitely become popular. Borrow Ms. Yun's auspicious words. Yun Chan was not surprised that the other party knew him. She is quite confident in her reputation. Zhang Lingzi stood aside and watched the two people talking back and forth. Yun Chan seemed to appreciate Yin Chang's feeling, and he wanted to hold his forehead. Ms. Yun, are you sending your son to be Miss Jiang's assistant? After the conversation became very pleasant, Yin Chang's curiosity was just right. Well, this brat is idle all day long, so send him here to exercise. Yun Yi felt inexplicably nervous when Yin Chang looked over, and subconsciously found a reason. I am a fan of Sister 1111. That's right, but it's generally not recommended for fans to be assistants to their favorite celebrities. In fact, I'm currently short of an assistant. Yin Chang spoke sincerely, looking at Yun Yi with full satisfaction. He was still thinking about getting the Yun Yi that Lian told him about. After all, a pregnant woman is not as useful as a strong man. Anyway, he just wants a navigation and cannon fodder. I didn't expect that the person who turned around would deliver it to my door, but it's a pity that it wasn't delivered to him. Yun Chan and Yin Chang were shaken for a moment when they looked at each other. This man's temperament and appearance are so outstanding. But her son's safety is the most important thing in her heart. It's his first time as an assistant and he has to learn everything from scratch. If you want to hire an assistant, it's best to hire an experienced one. Yun Yi may not be qualified. Yin Chang nodded with a regretful expression. Except for Zhang Lingzi, who was watching with cold eyes, no one could tell what he was regretting. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 473. Chapter 473. Step Up Shooting. Yun Chan left without staying for lunch. The International Fashion Festival is approaching, and it is no less important than this Liang Chuan show. She has a lot of things to do. Even sending Yun Yi to Zhang Lingzi is a time squeezed out. Even if she goes back now, she will not be able to do it until then. It was almost dark at the airport. Maybe you don't even have to eat dinner, so you have to take the team directly to board the plane and fly abroad. Before leaving, he made a promise to Zhang Lingzi, see you at the International Fashion Festival. Be sure to give me a call when you get there. Watching Yun Chan's car leave, Zhang Lingzi first took Yun Yi to Wei Xiao to report, and then went to eat. After the meal, he handed over to Chang Ning for arrangements. Yun Yi came over this time, so naturally he couldn't continue to lay the floor in the RV compartment. Chang Ning also knew that he was here to avoid disaster this time, but there was Yin Chang in the crew, and it was not safe to live in a tent alone. She thought for a while and simply led him to Huzi. In the next period of time, you and I use lives together. Yun Yi had no objection at all, and obediently put his suitcase in, and called Huzi, who came to help pack it up. Brother Huzi, I'm going to trouble you during this time. I'm pretty honest about sleeping, so I won't nap. I can't grind my teeth when I breathe. whose eye was quite familiar with him. He smiled and nodded, "Don't be restrained. I still remember that you were holding Changning's thigh when you lost your memory. It was just outside my tent." Yunyi's ears instantly turned red. His memories of the period of amnesia have not disappeared due to the restoration of memory, and he naturally remembers what he did in the past. 4 words can sum it up well: totally stupid and cute. After packing up and coming out of the tent, the color on his ears had not faded. When he saw Changning waiting outside, he cleared his throat before maintaining his composure and asking, "How is the injury on your palm?" Changning turned around and spread his hands for him to see. "It's much better. I have good self-healing ability." Yunyi took a closer look and saw that the black marks were indeed not as deep as before. "That's good. Let's go, I'll take you around the set. Although you're not really here to be an assistant, there are so many people on the crew, so you have to pretend. Look at what other assistants usually do. Just follow their example. It's complicated. I won't leave my job to you, even if I have Zheng Zheng." Yunyi nodded and followed. "You can leave the hard work to me. That's for sure. We can't really let you stay on the set and eat for free. There's one more thing." Changning lowered his voice as he spoke, and his tone became a little more serious. "That Yin, Chong Yin, he and 11, if you don't deal with Sister 11, stay away from this person. It's also for the sake of your life." However, in order to avoid panic, she swallowed the last sentence. "Well, I remember." Yunyi didn't ask any more questions. Although he had a tense relationship with his mother before, his mother's position was high enough. Even if he didn't have much contact with the fashion and entertainment circles, he still knew everything he needed to know. In these two circles, everyone secretly fights to the death, but on the surface they can maintain peace and quiet for years. Ms. Zhang and Chongyin are probably the same. The fact that Zhang Lingzi has a young male assistant next to her did not stir up any excitement in the crew. At most, a few supporting actors would say something sour during their breaks, such as expected of the leading actor, "And when I become famous, I will have several assistant bodyguards." Yunyi also adapted well to the crew. He was able to put down his stature and never claimed to be Yun Chan's son. In addition, when Yun Chan sent him here, not many people saw him, so naturally everyone also just treat him as an ordinary assistant. The splash caused by Luan Feng's return to the crew has not been high. After all, Luan Feng had a good reputation in the assistant circle before. He could have debuted in his image, but he became an assistant. Among the assistants, he was the one who was discussed the most. Later, he suddenly left, and many people speculated whether he was not working as an assistant to make his debut. Unexpectedly, the person came back as an assistant. But Luan Feng really didn't come here to continue being an assistant this time. The mission he received from Yin Chong was, take 2 people and go to the place where Kongju was found to confirm whether the person is really dead. Then meet up with the people inside the door who have received the follow-up exploration mission, and stop Wuju. Wait for the rest to complete the exploration mission of the ancient capital ruins. This is what the sect master also wants. At the end of the day, no one dared to say anything. Even though Luan Hua was worried that his brother would be in danger or even lose his life, after all, even Kongju had probably died, but he only dared to call the person out and give him instructions with a serious face. Although there is no emperor now, within the Changkang sect, the order of their sect master is an imperial edict. So Luan Feng basically showed up on the set and was invisible again. As soon as Luan Feng left the crew, Zhang Lingzi knew about it through Su Zhao. Luan Feng should have taken Lian and Li Yan into the desert. Changning had a look of disdain on his face, although that Lian is not a good person, and he is to blame for his current fate. I really didn't expect that people like Changkang clan would be able to force a pregnant woman to lead the way in the desert. They are really unscrupulous. Changning didn't stop complaining until Lu Zhengzheng brought over the printed notice. Zhang Lingzi took it and flipped it through, and she could tell at a glance, the shooting tasks have been stepped up. Lu Zhengzheng hurriedly explained, well, the weather has changed a bit quickly recently, and the satellite weather forecast also said that cold air may arrive earlier than expected. I heard that the satellite director even went to ask Mr. Chang if he could step up the filming. If the current quality cannot be maintained, the other side nodded and said yes. As for why Zhang Lingzi changed the notice without asking her, it was because she believed in her ability. But this is exactly what she wanted. The filming can end early, and maybe she will still have time to do something of her own by then. You have to work hard during this period. Once you have finished shooting these days, you will have a holiday when you get back and have a good rest for a few days. Main holiday officer Lu Zhengzheng suddenly cheered. Chang Ning also cheered, but she always felt that Sister Zixi had other plans. The weather was getting colder day by day. Fortunately, the crew was busy filming intensively all day long. Basically, I was so tired that I fell asleep when I got back to the tent, so I didn't feel cold anymore when I was busy. On the other hand, Tong Yu also received a huge surprise for her. In fact, this period of time has been full of surprises for her. The artists under his control are firstly the first spokesperson of Shanyu's Haiheng in the world and the brand ambassador of Yun. In addition, Legendary has become a small hit in the niche, and the commercial value will naturally follow. It went up. Now we have reached the threshold of second-tier artists. Then the company's resources were tilted, and Mr. Xiao sent a script that both companies had invested in, as well as 2 variety show invitations, cosmetics endorsements. Her job these days is to read the scripts and carefully choose the invitations. She would like to accept them all, but this is unrealistic. Her energy is limited, and she can bite off more than she can chew. Furthermore, Tong Yu also knows that Zhang Lingzi has her own ideas now. After she has chosen one round here, she will definitely choose another one when it comes to Zhang Lingzi. But after opening the International Express delivery in her hand and looking at the exquisite hot stamping patterns on the invitation, as well as the delicate cursive calligraphy that looked like handwriting, and the final signature of Carlo Hughes, Tong Yu finally I discovered that she could scream so loudly. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 474. Chapter 474 Carlo's personal invitation letter. Half an hour later. Tong Yu washed her face with cold water and read the invitation letter carefully 3 times. She almost memorized the beautiful lines of cursive characters before taking a deep breath and started calling Zhang Lingzi. It didn't get through. This time is wrong. I'm probably busy filming. The studio is noisy and the signal is not good. It's normal that I can't hear you. After muttering to herself, she wiped her hands, took the invitation and went out. Destination, Mr. Xiao's office. As for the script and invitation letter still on the desk, all of them together are not as heavy as this invitation letter. You must tell the big boss about this matter, and do it sooner rather than later. Li Yuan happens to be in Mr. Xiao's office right now. She came to ask for resources from Jing Huai. Now Zhang Lingzi and Jing Huai's status in the industry and even in the company can be said to have completely declined. Even the status of her and Tong Yu has been reversed. How could she not be angry? When I saw Tong Yu's cheerful face when she knocked on the door and came in, I felt even more dazzling. Tong Yu met Li Yuan's looking eyes and smiled, but her words were not very polite. Yuan is here too, I said. I just passed by your office, the door was open, why was there no one inside? By the way, what are you talking about? It's time to tidy up the office. I see there's a lot of waste paper on the floor. You haven't been doing well at work recently, so you can't take it out on the company's property. Li Yuan gritted his back teeth and said, Sister Tong, I came directly to see Mr. Xiao when I came to the company, and I didn't even have time to clean up. Have you finished talking? I'll finish it after you finish. If you haven't finished, I'll wait nearby. Before Li Yuan could speak this time, Mr. Xiao, who had been impatient with her noise early in the morning, spoke first. Tong Yu, tell me, why do you want to see me? Li Yuan's chest rose and fell violently. While he wanted to turn around and leave, he also wanted to know what Tong Yu was going to say. In the end, he stood still with a blue face. Tong Yu simply didn't bother to pay attention to her. Besides, she had nothing to hide about what she was going to say this time. Moreover, by the time Li Yuan finished listening, he would probably vomit blood with his current state of mind. The person is what she keeps and what she wants to listen to. Even if she vomits blood later, it will not be her fault. Mr. Xiao, look at this. The black and gold-toned invitation looks very high-end at first glance, not to mention the obvious hot stamping on the surface. Mr. Xiao had brought the coffee and was about to take a sip. When his eyes fell on the invitation and he recognized the hot stamping on it, the hand holding the coffee shook. He didn't drink it and put it back. He took out a tissue to wipe it with. I wiped my hands before taking the invitation. Although he runs an entertainment company, he has ambitions to enter the fashion industry. The International Fashion Festival includes the top fashion trendsetters in the International Fashion Circle and the International Entertainment Circle. How could he not recognize this logo? This is... Mr. Xiao, who has always been calm, looked shocked. It was rare to see him. Tong Yu smiled with 8 teeth. It's for our Xiao 11. I just got it after sending it. Mr. Xiao took a deep breath and opened the invitation. When I saw the invitation written in my own handwriting and the name of the last inviter, I became uneasy again. Carlo Seuss. Is this the Carlo I know? Tong Yu glanced at Li Yuan, who stretched his neck to look at the invitation, and took a step forward to directly block her sight. Mr. Xiao still remembers the past few days. Is that the highlight video of Liang Chuan's show that Yun posted? At that time, Xiao 11 and Mr. Carlo were seated next to each other, and Xiao 11 helped walk to the end of the show. I guess Xiao 11 was there. It's time to gain the appreciation of Mr. Carlo. Mr. Xiao nodded repeatedly after hearing this. It is indeed possible. No, this is true. The handwritten invitation letter now in his hand is evidence that Zhang Lingzi has been appreciated by Mr. Carlo. Although Li Yuan couldn't see the appearance of the invitation clearly, let alone the words on it, it was blocked by Tong Yu, but listening to the conversation between the two, he felt that the world was ridiculous for a moment. No, it's impossible. Zhang Lingzi, how can she be so good that she can be favored by Mr. Carlo? It's fake. This invitation must be fake. As soon as she finished speaking, she received 2 death stares. Tong Yu sneered directly. Do you think I would joke with Mr. Xiao about this? I'm not crazy and don't want to do it anymore. Just because your artist can't do it doesn't mean that we, Xioxi, can't do it. Do you know if you have accumulated a lot of experience? After mocking Li Yuan, Tong Yu straightened her back and said, Mr. Xiao, this is what I think. Now those invitations should be turned down or postponed before deciding, if the inviting party agrees. After Xiao 11 finishes filming the TV series, she will leave from Liangchuan. When I come back, I'll rest for a few days and then prepare for the International Fashion Festival in a month. After the Fashion Festival, the invitations from major film studios and brands will definitely be higher than what they are now, and the remuneration and endorsement fees will definitely increase. What do you think? At this moment, even Li Yuan could tell that Mr. Xiao was in a good mood and had no intention of hiding it in front of his subordinates. He immediately made a decision. Okay, then I'll do as you say. The 2 scripts I gave you before were just for female supporting roles. You should be able to consider the female protagonists when you come back from the International Fashion Festival. He even considered it thoughtfully. The wind and sand in Liangchuan are also strong, so filming there for a month will definitely make you look tired. Ling 11 will have to take good care of her when she comes back. In this way, an invoice will be issued for this part of the expenses. The company will reimburse you. I would like to thank Mr. Xiao on behalf of Ling 11. The atmosphere here is so joyful, and it becomes more and more out of place for Li Yuan, who is standing aside with a pale face and an unhappy expression. Be sure to keep the invitation letter. Mr. Xiao handed it halfway, took it back, picked up the mobile phone at hand and took a photo. Although it's not for me, it's for my company's employees so they can show off. Tong Yu, I will definitely keep it safe for Xiao 11 until she comes back. Thinking about it this way, the office is no longer safe. She carries it with her. Get a waterproof and anti-wrinkle plastic wrap. Just do it. Li Yuan's facial features were almost distorted when Tong Yu happened to take a look at him. Is it intentional? I said it in front of her on purpose. Although she did have the urge to steal the invitation and ruin it. Even the invitation letter cannot be protected. How can I have the nerve to attend the International Fashion Festival? Mr. Xiao, I'll go out first. Well, go ahead. Tong Yu, she swears this is the gentlest voice she has heard from Mr. Xiao since she joined the company. When she left the office, Mr. Xiao looked at Li Yuan, who was standing like a pillar, and his soothing brow suddenly wrinkled again. Why haven't you left yet? End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 475. The yellow sand is long, and the sand blown by the wind falls on the tent, making a rustling sound. Zhang Lingzi took the mobile phone handed over by Lu Zhengzheng, Sister Tong. What's that noise over there? Got windy. Then the wind is really strong. I could hear it whining on the phone. Indeed, it's getting bigger and bigger. I just moved it to a tent and shot it with a green screen. Then you have to be careful and don't catch a cold. I just wanted to ask you about the invitation letter. Did you receive the invitation letter? No, I took the invitation letter and stayed calm in the office for half an hour before I went to find Mr. Xiao. This is a serious matter. Do you know that you are the first person to receive an official invitation to an international fashion festival since the establishment of our company? The letter is from an artist, not counting the one from Jinghuai, not to mention that it was written by Mr. Carlo himself. This is the first time I have seen Mr. Xiao smile from ear to ear. Recently, there have been several variety show advertising invitations, and Mr. Xiao also took 2 scripts he invested in. However, Mr. Xiao and I discussed it and put these aside for now. When you come back from filming, we will work hard first. Prepare for the International Fashion Festival. I went to Mr. Xiao's office and met Li Yuan. She can't be arrogant now. Jinghuai has stopped working for a few days. I don't know if something happened. In this phone call, Zhang Lingzi only said a few words at the beginning, but in the end it was all Tong Yu who did the talking. It wasn't until Tong Yu finished saying what she was going to say that she spoke. Sister Tong. Hey, tell me, if you have any requests, I'll take care of them for you. When the filming is finished in 2 days, I may have to delay for a few more days before returning to the imperial capital. At that time, I will ask Zheng Zheng to go back with the crew. She has been working hard with me during this period of time in Liangchuan. When I go back, I prepare to give her a few days off. Tong Yu only heard one message from these words. Aren't you coming back with the crew? Well, I have some personal things to take care of. What private matters are more important than preparing for the upcoming International Fashion Festival? Tong Yu retorted quickly, listening to the wind coming from the receiver. The two of them were silent for almost a minute through the phone, and finally Tong Yu compromised. You, forget it, just keep it private. Don't tell me that you can't make it to the International Fashion Festival. Believe it or not, I'll buy it now. Flying over to watch you. I personally promised Mr. Carlo that I would not be absent. That's pretty much it. I'll be back as soon as I finish my personal business. After hanging up the phone, Zhang Lingzi looked into Lu Zhenzhen's wide eyes. Sister Zixi. I'm going to tell you this in the next 2 days. Zhang Lingzi pulled her hand. You can go with the crew then, and just tell Sister Tong when you land. I've been away for so many days, and I just want to go home and watch. Look. Sister Zixi, are you talking about Mr. Shen's personal matters? Zhang Lingzi raised her eyebrows. After all, she was a personal assistant. Although she deliberately hid some sensitive things from Lu Zhenzhen, it seemed that the girl had figured something out. Fortunately, it's fine as long as it's measured. Well, I'm going to go back to the imperial capital with Yunqing then. I know Sister Zixi. Originally, the sunset here in Liangchuan was later than in the imperial capital, but because of the wind, which was getting stronger and stronger without any sign of letting up, the sky turned yellow and dark before 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Even the tent that was pitched strong enough was blown around a bit. In this kind of weather, filming would definitely be impossible. Wei Xiao directly announced that dinner would be prepared in advance, and everyone would go to the car to rest after eating. It is not even recommended to live in a tent. If the wind gets stronger, it is not impossible to blow the tent up to the sky with people. While waiting for the meal to start in the cafeteria, everyone had nothing to do and chatted away. This wind is a bit evil. What age is it and there is still evil spirit? I was just making an analogy. Doesn't anyone think the wind is a bit strange? Expand and talk about it. People generally call the wind blowing in the desert a sandstorm. I have seen videos of sandstorms on the internet before. It is no different during the day than at night. But look at the wind today. Although it is not small, it is like a wave. Blowing one after another. Do you think it's like the desert is breathing? As he spoke, the man imitated inhaling and blowing. Not to mention, your description seems quite appropriate. He must be angry now. Listen, the breathing outside has become louder. Sister 11, Sister 11. Zhang Lingzi came to her senses and pushed away Wei Minmin's extended palm. What's the matter? You are also listening to the nonsense of those people next to you. I think you are fascinated by it. I think their description is quite reasonable. Only the desert can breathe. Wei Minmin couldn't help laughing a few times. Doesn't that mean that the desert is alive? How is this possible? Anyway, I think it is just an ordinary sudden change in weather. I just don't know what to expect. Is it going to snow when the wind stops? I think it's a bit colder today than yesterday, so I even put on my long johns that I wasn't planning to wear. Sister 11, can I go to your place to sleep tonight? Although the seats in the car can be folded flat, they are still too narrow, and I am not a good sleeper. I will just make a bed on the floor then. Zhang Lingzi nodded towards her, looked up and saw Suai and Zhou Yi walking in side by side. Brother Zhou, Sister Xiaoai. The two people who were called patted the sand on their bodies and walked over. Zhang Lingzi waited for them to sit down at the table next to them, then asked directly, Brother Zhou, Sister Xiaoai, you are experts in exploration. With the wind like today, there is so much movement on the edge of our Gobi Desert. What about the movement inside the desert? Is it bigger? Theoretically, that's true. Suai nodded first, but then quickly changed her tone. However, the wind is indeed a bit different today. First of all, although we have experience in desert exploration, we also use instruments to keep an eye on the weather. The instruments do not have strong wind warnings. The wind came so suddenly that even we did not expect it, and the wind force did not look like a sandstorm. So, I can't give you a definite answer. But we are definitely safe here, so don't worry. Zhou Yi nodded with a smile, and then added, the food and water you eat and drink in the next 2 days may taste like sand. After all, this thing is pervasive, unless it is sealed food. Just as Zhang Lingzi was about to nod, she heard a voice from behind, the wind won't blow without warning, unless someone acts too wantonly and makes this desert angry. What do you think, Miss Zhang. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 476. Lian and Li Yan were huddled under the car holding hands. Cars that can run in the desert have high chassis, and adults can curl up and hide underneath them if they are careful. In this way, although the wind is still blowing from all directions, it feels much warmer and safer than standing outside. But now the two of them were touching each other, and they could hear each other's teeth grinding uncontrollably. The expression was extremely frightened. After all, they saw with their own eyes that the originally peaceful desert seemed to open a huge mouth and swallowed up several people in one go. This scene that they thought would only happen in fantasy movies was really happening in front of their eyes. Lian, they all hate themselves for not going crazy yet. Luan Feng turned around and came back, glanced under the car, then got in the car, closed the door, took out his cell phone and sent a message. Sir, we found Kongju's body. He was too dead to die, but the cause of death has not been found yet. In addition, they have already entered and confirmed that the ruins of the ancient capital are under Mingsha's eyes. Wait for the following teams, mark them, and then go down. After regrouping, you alone are no match for them. Make a mark. Are you coming too? I'm curious how Kongju died. Asterisk. After finishing a dinner that smelled of sand and earth, everyone who originally planned to go to the tent to grab their blankets and go to the car to rest was soon surprised to find, the wind has become lighter. Then why don't you go sleep in the car? The space in the car is too small, making it difficult to sleep. Just wait a little longer, maybe the wind will stop later. This is really a demon wind, stop when you say it will. I decided to sleep in the tent. Zhang Lingzi was looking towards the depths of the desert. When he caught a glimpse of Yin Chang's figure from the corner of his eye, he couldn't help but think of what he said in the cafeteria before. Listen selectively, and even Sui and Zhou Yi think this style is weird. Then can she make a bold guess that Shen Yunqing and the others have already found a place? This is good news. She has to step up too. At midnight, Zhang Lingzi woke up when she heard the noise and saw Chang Ning standing in the carriage. She lifted the quilt and sat up, and she could clearly feel that the temperature in the car was colder than before going to bed. Chang Ning touched the remote control of the air conditioner and raised the temperature in the car a few degrees before whispering, "Sister Zixi, it's snowing outside." As soon as she finished speaking, Zhang Lingzi pushed aside the blackout curtain. With the illumination of several large lights that were on all night around the camp, the falling snowflakes became more and more crystal clear under the light, and the ground was already covered with a layer of light white. As the temperature inside the carriage rose, another layer of water mist quickly formed on the glass, making the vision blurry. Zhang Lingzi put down the shade again and lay back down, go on to sleep. When they woke up again, the two of them were awakened by the sound of Lu Zhengzheng. It's actually snowing, Sister Zixi, Changning, look. Zhang Lingzi sat up, and Changning replied while looking for thick clothes in the closet, we knew it in the middle of the night. Didn't you notice that the air conditioner in the carriage was a few degrees higher than it was before going to bed last night? I really didn't pay attention. No wonder I felt it was very warm last night. When did the snow fall? It should be around 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm going out to take a look. I haven't seen snow in the desert yet, Lu Zhengzheng said, putting on her down jacket and jumping out of the car. After Zhang Lingzi washed up, she poured a glass of water and sat down in front of the car window. She looked at many people outside like Lu Zhengzheng, wrapped in thick clothes and jumping around in the snow. She drank some water and said softly, I can shoot the last part today, it's a play. Chang Ning had also seen the announcement, is it the scene about the ambush in the snow? Then I will bring all the warm babies I brought today. As expected, after eating a hot breakfast, Wei Xiao announced that he would shoot the ambush scene in the snow. When Zhang Lingzi finished putting on makeup and changing into costumes, she was surrounded by Lu Zhengzheng and Changning. Almost all her parts except her head were covered with warm baby clothes, and then she put on the costume again. After all this black technology, she went out wearing a white military uniform that looked a little thin, but she actually felt a little hot. When Wei Xiao saw her face that was rosy and slightly sweating, he turned around and took a sip of tea, talking to the makeup artist, first put a layer of frozen purple on the heroine's mouth, and then some white on her face. Loose powder, this doesn't look cold at all. Okay, each group is ready. Zhang Lingzi was lying on her back in the snowdrift. This snow is not very heavy. It has only reached calf height. It is not enough to bury all the people in it. The staff moved the snow from other places to this side, forcibly creating an image where the snow was as deep as the thighs. She and the other ambushed actors had to stay in the snow for at least 10 minutes. It's too far from the real ambush time in this life. Coupled with the warmth all over her body, she didn't feel the coldness of lying in the snowdrift at all, and even felt that the snow around her seemed to be melting. However, despite this, everyone on the set was still sweating. When the scene advanced to the point where the ambushed soldiers were about to appear unexpectedly and start harvesting, Wei Xiao was about to give a warning when he saw a figure suddenly emerge from the snow, with a flash of silver light on the scimitar in his hand, and he was already clear and crisp. The ground was wiped on one person's neck. Wei Xiao. Looking at the other men in white who emerged from the snowdrifts and began to kill, he silently put down the big horn in his hand. I have to say that this is more natural than directing him himself. Zhang Lingzi's timing was pretty good. An ambush in the snow requires a surprise. The northern barbarian soldiers who came out to pry and were completely unprepared soon fell down one after another. Yin Chong fought and retreated, looking at Zhang Lingzi who was approaching him step by step with a blood-stained knife. What a great princess of Dayan. The emotions of this line are quite complicated. The reluctance after failure is mixed with cynicism and resentment. Before the filming started, Wei Xiao guided and recited it several times. But at this moment, facing Zhang Lingzi's eyes that were colder and more solemn than the ice and snow under his feet, Wei Xiao's desired emotion was achieved unknowingly. After filming the scene in which he was desperately trying to cover up his embarrassment and left, Wei Xiao shouted, "It's stuck," then he couldn't help but laugh out loud, "Very good, it's over once and for all. No one wants to film this kind of scene a second time." Leaving aside the need to rearrange the messy snowfield, the key point is that the actors also suffered. Suddenly there was a burst of cheers on the set. Amidst cheers, Zhang Lingzi walked up to Yin Chong, who was sitting down to touch up his makeup, and met his eyes as he looked up. "This time it's fake, but next time, it will be real. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry." Author, Press 11. Chapter 477. After 2 more days of reshooting to check for leaks and fill in the gaps, Wei Xiao held up a loudspeaker and announced, "It's done." This time the cheers were louder than the last time. "I can finally go back. When I return to the imperial capital, I will go back to my small rental house and sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. No one can wake me up. I'm going to have a big meal at the little restaurant downstairs and order 10 dishes. I have to go back and coax my girlfriend I've only called less than 5 times this month. What kind of gift do you think I can buy? Brother, count me in, we will work together as a staff advisor later." It was noon. After the snow stopped, it was sunny for 2 consecutive days. The sun was quite warm on my body. At the cafeteria, the remaining rations were being used to prepare as sumptuous a final feast as possible. Others also started to pack boxes under the sun. The entire set was very busy for a while. Zhang Lingzi asked Lu Zhengzheng to go back and pack her luggage while she went to find Wei Xiao. "Won't you go with the crew?" Wei Xiao raised his eyebrows after hearing her intention, Do you still have a job here in Liangchuan? It's not work, I have personal matters to deal with. Since he said it was a private matter, Wei Xiao couldn't continue asking. But we have to wait until we return to the supply point we passed by before we can separate. We can't separate here. This section of the road is also dangerous. It is also the last journey for Su Zhao and the others to us. No problem. It just so happened that she also planned to get some supplies. And the RV would definitely not be able to follow her this time, so she planned to leave it at the supply point and hire someone to look after it. Change to a car that can cross the desert. When Zhang Lingzi came out of Wei Xiao's house, she saw Yin Chong walking towards him. The two of them looked at each other and passed each other directly. Director Wei, Yin Chong stood in front of Wei Xiao. I'm here to say goodbye to you. Wei Xiao, you won't go back to the imperial capital with the crew. As soon as he heard the word yeah, Yin Chong's eyes flashed. Yes. Do you also have personal matters to take care of? That's right. Wei Xiao couldn't help but sigh, but this time he didn't say anything more. He was worried about Zhang Lingzi because they were relatively close and she was a girl. Then Chong Yin didn't do either of those things. He was angry when he suddenly asked for leave for no reason. So he nodded simply, okay, I understand. By noon, the entire crew camp, except for the canteen that still needed to be used, was almost completely tidied up by the energetic staff. After finishing the final feast in the desert, a car left first. Carrying on it were Yin Chong and Luan Hua. It didn't attract many people's attention. Even if they did, they just thought it was because the artist was busy making announcements. At 1:30 in the afternoon, the canteen was also dismantled. Except for some snow that had not completely melted in the backlight, there was not even a piece of garbage in the entire camp. Get in the car and return. It was already evening when we arrived at the supply point. Dinner is already prepared, let's set off. After eating, let's catch the nearest flight and arrive at the imperial capital early tomorrow morning. Although there are places to stay at the supply point, they are very simple and no one wants to stay for another night. After dinner, Lu Zhengzheng was about to leave with the crew. The little girl's eyes were a little red. Sister Zixi, Changning, you should take care of yourself. Zhang Lingzi patted her shoulder and said, when I go back, I will take you and Sister Tong abroad. Then I'll wait. Watching the girl get on the car with her head back and forth, and watching the crew's convoy disappear into the night, Zhang Lingzi was about to take the rest of the people back to the RV, when she met Su Zhao on the way, who had finished the protection mission and was about to stay overnight. I said, why is your RV still parked in the parking lot? Why didn't you go with the crew? Zhang Lingzi looked around and saw that there were no outsiders, so she didn't bother to make excuses. I plan to go into the desert. Into the desert? At this time, Su Zhao's eyes were filled with disapproval. Now is not a good time to enter the desert. The temperature has already reached below zero at night. I have something to do and I have to go in. You. Su Zhao was speechless for a moment. He paused before lowering his voice and said, at noon, when Mr. Chong left with his assistant, I saw that the direction they drove out was not out of the desert. You two going into the desert must have something to do with him, right? Zhang Lingzi had actually been hesitating for several days. When she heard Su Zhao ask this question again, she pursed her lips and lowered her voice and asked, I wonder if Brother Su plans to take another job. She can guess that her going into the desert is related to Yin Chong, which means that the person in front of her must have noticed something when she was on the set. This person not only uses his ability to do things, but also uses his brain. She was not sure how many people would be sent to Changkangmen, but having more people on her side would always be safer. And during this period of time, she watched with cold eyes. Although Su Zhao's bodyguard team were all ordinary people, everyone was very capable and was considered the best among ordinary people. Such a team will at least not be held back. Su Zhao narrowed his eyes. What kind of employment? Zhang Lingzi raised her hand and made a gesture of invitation. Let's go to the RV to talk in detail. Several people returned to the RV. With the door closed, the interior of the RV is an independent space. The place I'm going to this time is an ancient capital ruins located in the desert. Archaeology. Su Zhao couldn't help but look Zhang Lingzi up and down again. Don't tell me that you have another job as archaeology. The main thing is to find people. Do you remember the people who came to visit me some time ago? I know, Mr. Shen went to the ancient capital ruins for archaeology. Zhang Lingzi took a deep breath and nodded. It's not that the term archaeology cannot be used here. She decided to continue, but there is another group of criminals coveting the ruins of the ancient capital, and they may have encountered them inside the ruins now. I am worried and want to go and see for myself. But there are really not many people. Su Zhao glanced at Chang Ning and Huzi who were standing behind Zhang Lingzi. Adding Yunyi to them was really not much. I have indeed taken on a few archaeological missions, but this is the first time in the desert. There is nothing that can be used for supplies when I go in. You must bring enough supplies, otherwise you will die of thirst, starvation, or freezing. With the harsh compared with the environment, those criminals have to take a back seat. After all, they are all human beings. If anything is missing, they will die. In this way, Su Zhao said and stood up. I personally am willing to accept this employment, but I have to go back to my brothers. Let's discuss it. Wait for my reply in half an hour. Zhang Lingzi walked him to the door of the carriage, turned around and looked at Chang Ning and Hu Ziyi, and finally turned her eyes to Yun Yi. Yun Yi stood up immediately when he saw it. Sister Zixi, I want to take you with me. The first stop is Mingxian. You are like a living map. But to be honest, this trip will be very dangerous. You have also seen the methods of those people from the surveillance. So, your opinion is important. If you don't want to go, you can leave by plane tomorrow morning. I'll give you half an hour to think about it. No, don't think about it. Yun Yi shook his head, then lowered his eyes and glanced at Chang Ning, who had his back turned. I'm not leaving, I'm coming with you. Have you really thought about it? Well, Sister Zixi, you also said that I am useful and I am very happy. Well, I won't hide it from you. The person who took Lian and Li Yan away from the hotel before was Chang Yin's assistant Luan Hua. If you go into the desert with us, maybe you can meet them again. Yun Yi's eyes suddenly widened. He even said hello to Luan Hua on the set. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 478. Seeing the frightened look on his face, Zhang Lingzi laughed and said, she would definitely not dare to do anything to you in front of others. Then, who are they? They should be more than just criminals, right? Well, he is an organized criminal with some special skills. Yun Yi looked at Zhang Lingzi who was still calm, and his heartbeat became steady. I believe in the words of my ancestors. Evil will not prevail against good, and I am not afraid. Chang Ning suppressed a smile and patted his shoulder. You are a living map, we will definitely protect you. Half an hour later, the carriage door was knocked on time. Huzi went over to open the door and brought Su Zhao in. I accepted this job, but I have to leave two people in my team. One is urged by his parents to get engaged, and the other is because his wife is about to give birth. Zhang Lingzi nodded, understandable. After all, this mission is very likely to be gone forever, and the risk factor is much higher than the previous missions. Then my team now has a total of 12 people, plus the 4 of you, it will be 16 people. At least 5 vehicles must be prepared, 3 carrying people and 2 carrying only supplies. It's too late now. Early tomorrow morning, I will take people to prepare food, water, and gasoline. By the way, do you need any weapons? I'll see if I can get them together. Yun Yi was the first to get excited when he heard this. Being able to explore the desert, he naturally has an adventurous spirit in his heart. However, desert exploration is at best a struggle against a harsh environment and tests people's ability to survive. But this time, just thinking about it, it's much more exciting. Can I have a nunchuk? I'm pretty good at this. Su Zhao, okay. Then Huzi and Chang Ning asked for a knife each, with 2 requirements, sharp and easy to carry. Seeing that Su Zhao still nodded straightforwardly in response, Zhang Lingzi raised her eyebrows and raised her hand to make a gesture. Su Zhao's mouth suddenly smoothed, and he shook his head without thinking, this won't work, don't even think about it. Zhang Lingzi is still a little regretful. She has only seen that weapon on TV and has never actually touched it. He had no choice but to settle for the next best thing, just do the same as Chang Ning and Huzi, plus a crossbow. Su Zhao breathed a sigh of relief, this is okay. Yun Yi volunteered to see Su Zhao off, turned around, and gave Zhang Lingzi a thumbs up. This person really dares. I'm just testing it out, I don't plan to actually get that thing. Zhang Lingzi hugged herself, and then said, today is the only time I can have a good rest. Go back and have a good rest, and don't stay up late. The last sentence mainly warns Yun Yi. This guy was caught hiding under the quilt and staying up late playing games twice before. Yun Yi touched his nose and said, I'll have a video call with my mother when we get back, and then hand the phone over to brother Huzi. Zhang Lingzi waved her hand to let the 2 of them go out. Chang Ning, I will leave Yun Yi's safety to you. Sister Yun entrusted the person to me, and I have to let mother and son get together safely. Chang Ning nodded heavily. Let's take a rest too. A dreamless night. Just as the crew members of Empress Yuan Zhao landed at the imperial capital airport in the morning light, Zhang Lingzi stood in front of an off-road vehicle painted in desert camouflage. Su Zhao opened the car door and said, Ling 11, you 4 will take this car. I am driving this car. This is also our rule. The captain will personally you. It seems that I really found the right person. Zhang Lingzi originally thought she was looking for a car to find supplies, but with so many things, it would take half a morning. Unexpectedly, I haven't had breakfast yet this early in the morning. All the car supplies are ready. In our line of work, the relationship between the upper and lower levels must be well established. We also have regular partners here, Su Zhao said and pointed to the car, everything you want is already on the car. After finishing a simple but filling breakfast, the RV was locked and covered with a protective cover. Zhang Lingzi was not prepared to delay any more and immediately announced her departure. 5 vehicles drove out of the supply point one after another and headed towards the desert again. Yun Yi was sitting in the co-pilot, holding a brand new nunchuk in his hand. Speaking of the destination of this trip, as we all know, the desert is fluid. Although it is not as fluid as water, under the influence of wind, it moves slowly almost all the time, but that sand eye is a rare fixed spot in the desert. Why doesn't it move, and why is it called trachoma? To be honest, I don't know the first question. The second thing I know is that the place looks like an eye from a distance, and when the wind blows, it makes a sound, like sand talking through the wind. I went to that place to take pictures because it is a special place for adventurers. It is difficult for ordinary people to climb up there. Some people always think that place is a bit mysterious and are afraid of it. I never expected it. He did not continue what he said, but the 3 people sitting in the back seat of the car knew what happened behind him. Su Zhao drove seriously from the moment he got in the car, listening to the conversations in his ears without making any comments. Until he heard the name Ming Trachoma several times in a row, he hesitated and finally said, I have a friend who is also a trachoma. If you are keen on exploring, I will listen to you talk about it. I suddenly remembered that he also talked about this Ming trachoma. Sand in the desert is one of the most difficult substances to fix, but trachoma can always exist in the same place, which means that there is probably something below that fixes it. My friend also thought about whether to go down Tantan, but he didn't go very deep when he encountered quicksand. If he hadn't taken protective measures in advance, he would have died that time. When Yu Sheng came back to drink with me, he mentioned this to me. After he finished speaking, Yun Yi, who was sitting next to him, broke into a cold sweat. Think about how much effort it took to climb up under Lian's instigation. If they accidentally encounter quicksand, they didn't take any protective measures at the time. This is a brush with death. No, he has passed by me twice. Now I am ready to continue the third round of head iron. Everyone has lunch in the car, and even changing drivers midway is done while driving. Unless there are 3 emergencies, the car rarely stops. The team drove until evening. The passengers in the car were all tired, not to mention the driver who had been concentrating on driving and had to let the overloaded engine cool down. The team then found a leeward place to stop. Zhang Lingzi and Chang Ning helped each other out of the car and stretched their hands and feet. Feeling a little more relaxed, they went back to the car to get the satellite electronic map. They looked at the dots and routes on it and said, "At today's speed, we can reach Mingxian. It will take 2 more days." Yin Chong set off half a day ahead of her. She didn't expect to arrive early, but she couldn't fall behind this man. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 479. Chapter 479 Arriving at Mingxian and encountering it again. Supper is scones and vegetable jerky soup. The cake is cooked, cooled, and then reheated. It is crispy and fragrant, but the air is dry and cold, so it tastes even drier. The vegetables and jerky in the vegetable jerky soup are dehydrated and easy to preserve. Just boil water in a pot and put it in. It is quick and easy to eat. Everyone gathered in a circle in front of the fire, eating 1 bite of scones and 1 bite of soup. Su Zhao took the time to explain, eating in the desert is generally very simple. The food you bring is as easy to preserve as possible, and the requirements are kept to a minimum, as long as you can ensure the intake of energy and other nutrients. This is mainly said to Zhang Lingzi. He is a star after all. Even when the crew was filming in the desert before, there was a canteen chef and fresh vegetables, meat, bacon, dried fish, and so on. The food was quite rich, much better than now. There is also the previous live broadcast of survival. Although you need to be self-reliant, there is no shortage of wild vegetables and meat in the wilderness, which is more of a test of your hands-on ability. But now in this desert, all kinds of conditions have taken a turn for the worse, and he is really afraid that Zhang Lingzi will not adapt. Zhang Lingzi broke off a piece of cake like the others, took another sip of soup, swallowed it and nodded, "It tastes pretty good. Although it's not as good as before, it's much better than spending a lifetime marching in a hurry, eating dry, tasteless cakes and drinking cold water." For her, there is no need to adapt at all. Su Zhao breathed a sigh of relief. After finishing the meal and arranging the groups for taking turns to keep watch, Su Zhao got into the tent and saw that the 3rd child who slept with him had packed his sleeping bag. "Thank you." "You're welcome. Captain, do you think Miss Zhang and the girl beside her named Chang Ning can really handle it at the speed we are traveling at today?" Su Zhao took off his shoes and got into the sleeping bag. When he heard Lao San's words, he thought of Zhang Lingzi's performance in survival. He was able to accept this employment because he was hired by none other than Zhang Lingzi. If it had been any star in the entertainment industry, even a man, he would not have agreed. There's no need to worry about this, and she didn't hire us to protect her, but to share the force of the lawless elements. Although he had never actually fought against Zhang Lingzi, based on her performance in survival and the girl's martial arts scenes he had watched on the set before, he had boldly speculated that Zhang Lingzi's skills were not weaker than his. Coupled with the crossbow he helped Zhang Lingzi get, let's think about the accuracy of the opponent's archery in the survival live broadcast. If a fight really breaks out, the others will probably be gone before they even get close. He is really not worried about Zhang Lingzi. Lao San said softly, "Oh," lay down and rested on his arms, relaxing into sleep. In the next tent, Zhang Lingzi and Chang Ning lived together. The conditions were simple, and water became extremely precious in the desert. The two of them barely wiped themselves with a towel dipped in some water, put on their pajamas and lay down. Chang Ning couldn't sleep, and wanted to whisper something before going to bed. Just as he was about to speak, he heard the breathing in his ears become longer. This speed of sleeping is faster than that of her who has undergone special training. Hurriedly close your eyes and try to induce sleepiness. At dawn, there was a crisp sound of a rice spoon hitting a metal pot outside the tent, and the entire small camp suddenly changed from quiet to lively. Zhang Lingzi declined the team member's offer to help tidy up the tent, and she and Chang Ning packed up the things and folded the tent up. The speed was not much slower than that of Su Zhao's team members who were used to doing this. When I wash up, I do it just like everyone else. I brush my teeth with a few sips of water and wipe my face with a towel dipped in water. Nothing special at all. Lao San saw all this in his eyes, and he completely agreed with his captain's words. This Miss Zhang is really not pretentious at all. He has been a celebrity bodyguard several times before. Compared with those celebrities, this one really doesn't look like a star at all. It took less than half an hour from getting up to breaking camp and leaving. Even Su Zhao didn't expect it to be so fast. After getting in the car, he couldn't help but glance at Zhang Lingzi, who was lying faceless in the back seat. "We set off today faster than I expected. It will take more than half an hour and should be 30 to 50 miles longer than expected." Zhang Lingzi's lips curved up. "Then what are you waiting for? Let's go." Hurrying on the road is boring at any time, not to mention that the endless yellow sand Gobi Desert is still outside the car window. The snow that fell before has almost all melted, and the snow water has long penetrated to the surface. At night, the convoy was lucky enough to find a campsite with some remaining snow. It is no exaggeration to say that everyone's eyes lit up when they saw the snow. Although there is no water shortage yet, strictly speaking, this snow water cannot be drunk, but it can be used to wipe the body and soak the feet after it is heated. The remaining snow was not wasted, it was melted and put into empty containers before leaving. Zhang Lingzi clicked on the electronic map in his hand. If today goes as smoothly as yesterday, we will arrive at Mingxian in the evening. As soon as he said these words, the atmosphere in the car suddenly shook. Hope everything is fine. But I probably said too much. At noon, a car accidentally fell into a sand pit. At this distance, every car in the team cannot give up. A few people were driving in front, and the remaining people were busy helping push the car behind. Even Zhang Lingzi didn't look around and join the team pushing the cart. The guys worked hard for more than half an hour, and finally rescued the car with half of its body stuck in the sand pit and being rolled in by the flowing sand. After such an incident, Zhang Lingzi clearly felt that the members of Su Zhao's team were much closer to her. Although they were still called Miss Zhang, they were obviously not as polite as before, but they were still a little bit polite. Even though we are estranged, arriving can be considered an unexpected blessing. However, due to such a delay, we were originally scheduled to arrive at Mingxian in the evening, but we definitely couldn't do it now. By evening it was getting dark, and as expected, there was still nearly 30 miles to go. The walkie-talkie at Su Zhao's hand came from the questions from the team members behind him. "Captain, do you want to keep going?" Su Zhao looked at Zhang Lingzi through the rearview mirror. "Continue and stop when you reach Mingxian." The female voice came from the intercom. Everyone paused and responded in unison, "Roger." "Wait until the sun completely drops below the horizon and the bright moon rises high, turn on the front and rear lights of the car and continue driving in the direction of Mingxian. Half an hour later, Su Zhao stepped on the brakes. Without his reminding, several people in the car also saw the light coming from not far ahead. It's not the silvery glow of the moon. You can clearly see that the bright light is light, and the wattage is not low. There is a small valley ahead. It seems that someone has been stationed in advance. It is probably from Kongyan. Drive over and have a look. The people stationed in the small valley were having dinner. Yin Chong heard the noise coming from outside in the tent. He looked at Changshi, who was sitting opposite, and stood up and walked out. Looking up, I saw a row of 5 cars parked quietly above the valley, their lights slowly extinguishing. Everyone in charge of security in the camp has put down their jobs and picked up weapons to aim at the enemy. He squinted his eyes and saw the door of the car parked in the middle open, and a familiar figure stepped out. Even though he was pointed at by so many weapons, the man still looked towards him indifferently. There was no fear in his eyes, only calmness. He raised the corners of his mouth slightly and said, "Put your weapons away, we are acquaintances." At least he had no intention of becoming an enemy of Zhang Lingzi until Mingxian opened again. Let's talk about it after we enter the ruins. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 480. Chapter 480, When the sand roars, the quicksand crosses the eyes. The camp was set up quickly. Although the best terrain has been occupied by others, this is not the time to be polite and modest. Zhang Lingzi directly designated a piece of open space that was surrounded by Changkang Gate but was not in use. "Pitch a tent here." Su Zhao glanced at Chang Yin, who was walking towards the side. "Understand. This means you're welcome," he understands. "Miss Zhang." "Mr. Yin." Yin Chang paused and said, "It's so late. Miss Zhang and your men probably haven't eaten yet. We happen to have done a lot. You can come to our place to eat when you're done." "You're welcome. Mr. Yin is really kind, but I'm afraid you might poison me." Su Zhao's hand shaking the tent, he almost hit it with a hammer. "Is this a bit too direct?" And he just took a quick glance and found that based on the size of the opponent's camp, the number of people was estimated to be twice that of them. They have been on the road for another day, and they are hungry and haven't eaten yet. If they start a fight now, they may not be able to get any benefits. Fortunately, Yin Chang did not mean this, and Zhang Lingzi saw that he did not intend to cause a conflict before saying this. "I didn't expect to see Captain Su here again. There was only one person named Su around here." Su Zhao could only raise his head. "Should I call you Mr. Chang or Mr. Yin?" "Captain Su, it's up to you. My real name is Yin Chang, and my stage name is Chang Yin. No matter what I call it, it's still me." That was quite easy, so I called Miss Zhang together after the crew left. I accepted Miss Jiang's employment. Captain Su has superb professional skills, and Miss Zhang is even more powerful, but I'm quite surprised that you guys can get here so quickly. As he spoke, Yin Chang scanned the crowd of people in front of him again, and saw Yunyi, who was also immersed in setting up a tent not far away. A hint of understanding flashed across his face. No wonder Miss Zhang brought Yunyi with her. It just so happens that Lian and Li Yan are here, and the three of them should be willing to catch up on old times. Zhang Lingzi took the folding chair handed over by Changning, opened it and sat down. Hearing this, his eyes slightly raised. Luan Feng took them two away for several days in advance. "According to your style, even if you want to enter the ruins, you should not let them go. They can be used to explore the way, but they are still in the camp. You came early, but they are still outside now. Let me guess, is it possible that you still can't open the entrance to the ruins?" Yin Chang's smile paused for a moment, then widened and clapped his hands. "Miss Zhang is really smart. I was thinking, since we have the same goal, at least now, why not cooperate?" "How to cooperate?" Since no one moved a chair for him, Yin Chong simply did it himself, opened it and dropped it. Miss Zhang, do you know why this name is called trachoma? Mr. Yin, I don't like to be mysterious. When the sand roars, the quicksand crosses the eyes. This is the message that our people use their lives to detect. Zhang Lingzi sat up slightly. The sound of sand represents the rising wind, and quicksand is the ruins entered through quicksand. That's right, but you have to grasp the timing well and don't make any small moves. If an external force changes the direction of the quicksand, you will really be buried in the sand. The two looked at each other quietly. How many people have you lost here? Yin Chong, 3. Zhang Lingzi took a deep breath. She understood what Yin Chong meant. If you want to enter the ruins, you must first have a wind. When the wind comes, quicksand will appear. But this is only the first condition. The next step is to enter through the quicksand. Now, no one of the two teams is willing to go in first. If the team staying outside makes some small moves, the first one to go in will be wiped out. Needless to say, they all kind of wanted to do this. But just because I want to do it, I can't do it? Then you can't just wait outside for the wind to come. She thought for a while. You can take turns. This way no one dares to do anything. No, Yin Chong smiled sincerely, you can't control the wind. If the wind is light, the quicksand will disappear in a short while. It's best to go all at once. The magician who designed this door has already figured it out, and he didn't give it opportunities for us to exploit loopholes. So I think, let's cooperate when we go in, and no one will get in the way after we go in. We can each rely on our abilities. Zhang Lingzi met Yin Chong's eyes. Ancient capital ruins, just by using the word ancient capital, you can imagine how vast it is. Even if it is just a ruins, it is enough for them to explore for a long time. But food and water are limited, so how can we ensure that we can explore enough places with limited time and resources? Hands are needed. At that time, you can definitely have another black and white game. This calculation can be explained clearly. Even Zhang Lingzi couldn't refute it, because she also had this idea. I agree. At that time, it will be decided who has the better move. Yin Chong left satisfied. Chang Ning had been listening quietly. When Yin Chong walked away, she dragged the stool closer and whispered, Sir and the teacher have been in there for a while. They should not be in good condition after being underground for such a long time. Even if Chang Kangman loses 3, there are still so many people, so we are at a loss. Now is not the time to think about this. Everything has to wait until we find something that attracts Chang Kangman here. Zhang Lingzi stood up and patted her shoulder. Now we only need to consider the current situation first. The current situation is that neither Yin Chong nor I can do anything about the other, and they plan to take advantage of each other. As for the conflict, it will definitely be left to the end. Who can say for sure who will win? Chang Ning immediately reflected, Sister Zixi, I'm too nervous, he said a little embarrassedly. This is also the first time for me to experience such a big scene. I have only done small tasks that were not dangerous. You take Yunyi and follow me. For the next time, Chang Ning watched Zhang Lingzi calmly eat, wash and rest, just like the previous few days, as if the camp next door that hadn't calmed down didn't exist at all. A heart that was raised gradually settled down. The rest of the team was about the same. With Zhang Lingzi's calmness, even when facing a team twice as big as his own, he no longer felt nervous. Do whatever you have to do. Yin Chong and Chong Shi came out of the tent after discussing the matter and saw that the next door had quieted down. There were only 3 people outside holding torches for lighting and heating, and the lights in the rest of the tents had dimmed. This calmness easily reminded him of Zhang Lingzi's smooth performance during the previous negotiations. After talking for so long, he could not find any loopholes that he could break through. His eyebrows could not help but darken. Could it be that God also thought that his journey was too smooth, so he sent Zhang Lingzi to be such a difficult person to deal with? Thinking about Shen Yunqing Liuju and others who had already entered the ruins first, they were not very sleepy to begin with, and now they couldn't fall asleep even more. End of this chapter.